Welcome to the Rockin Wellness Podcast, the show that takes you on a voyage to better health, wellness, and happiness that will rock your world. With me, Rachel Joy Olson, your host, your coach, and welcome to episode 4 of the Rockin Wellness Podcast. Today, we are continuing our discussion on the many reasons to switch to a compassionate, plant-based vegan lifestyle. If you haven't yet listened to episode 3, which is part 1 of this discussion, I encourage you to go do that now. In episode 3, you learned about the difference between vegetarian and vegan and the difference between plant-based and vegan. You also learned that the top 3 reasons for making the switch to this lifestyle are: number 1, for ethical reasons, number 2, for health, and number 3, for the environment. In episode 3, part 1 of this series, we covered the many reasons why people choose to make the switch for animal ethical reasons. In today's episode, we will cover the many health and environmental reasons people choose to make the switch. Before we dive into these reasons today, I want to take a moment to recognize the state of the world as it is right now. From the COVID lockdowns that happened in 2019 and 20, the economic stresses and the continuation of that to this day, to various riots, various unrest, conversations around racism and discrimination. These issues all come back to, in my opinion, the fact that the human race lacks compassion, love, and respect for life in general. If we did have compassion, love, and respect for all life, human beings, animals, and the living planet as a whole, I believe we wouldn't have any of these issues. When someone has compassion, love, and respect for themselves, they would never judge or discriminate against another, hurt another living being, or destroy the planet. That's because the emotions and actions that result from compassion, love, and respect are not on the same level as discrimination, racism, cruelty, and suffering, so they just cannot coexist. You might be listening to this episode thinking that, this episode and the last is all about trying to convince people to go vegan. Well, it's so not. The purpose of even discussing these topics and reasons why people choose to make the switch to a vegan lifestyle comes down to an individual having compassion, love, and respect enough for the self to make hard choices and to have enough compassion, love, and respect for other beings that they don't inflict harm and suffering on another. Every choice we make is made out of compassion, love, and respect, or it's not. So I encourage you today to continue to listen to some of these reasons why people choose to make the switch to a compassionate, plant-based vegan lifestyle, and just recognize if any of these reasons may reflect a bigger purpose that, if started, or if you chose to do so, could positively affect the world as a whole and contribute to the greater good. So let's continue on with part 2 of our discussion. Let's dig into environmental reasons. It has been well proven that animal agriculture places much strain and causes much destruction on the environment. Some studies even show that animal agriculture has more negative effects on global warming than the oil and gas industries and cause more of deforestation than any other industry. By choosing to live a more compassionate, plant-based vegan lifestyle for the environment, you will reduce the vast amounts of waste products that result from factory farms that cause water, land, and air pollution hazards. You will cut down on your contribution of environmental destruction. You will no longer support destruction of the rainforest. You will cut down on water consumption. It takes millions of gallons of water to produce meat and animal products. As you can see, just by making some simple choices to eat more plants and not purchase animals, this will have a profound positive effect on the environment and help preserve the planet we live on. I really, truly believe it is our responsibility as human beings who currently use and live on this place and, this planet being our home. It is our responsibility to leave it in a better shape than how we inherited it. And of course, this is for future generations. Unfortunately, this has not happened. For some reason, humans have felt entitled and felt that they have the right to destroy, dig, and change the planet in any way they see fit. I'm really not sure who gave us that right. But as individuals, it may not seem like we're doing much. But if each one of us makes these positive choices, profound changes will be made in the future. So let's move on now to the third biggest reason why people choose to make the switch. By making the switch to a more compassionate, plant-based vegan diet, you will be healthier, says the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. Many of my family members and friends who are hardcore meat eaters have or have had major health concerns, all caused by eating too much meat and animal products. And I'm saddened by this fact every day as I watch the people in our world die from chronic conditions such as heart disease when it is preventable. If you want better health, consider going vegan. You will eat flavorful food. Too often people think they will have to live off lettuce salads for the rest of their life, and that food will have no taste if they switch to a plant-based diet. This is so far from the truth. Vegan food is bursting with flavor, and you'll discover new flavors that you had no idea you loved. You will discover new recipes. You'll discover new ways of cooking and preparing delicious and healthy food. When I used to teach cooking classes, I remember one of my participants came dragging her husband into the class. He sat there with his arms crossed and so obviously didn't want to be there. I didn't really pay too much attention to him and just taught the class as I normally would, sharing many of my favorite recipes with the group. At the end of the class, this man came to me and said, "That was some of the most delicious food I have ever tasted. Can you teach my wife to cook like that?" It was so nice to see that I had won him over with the simple, rich flavor of plants. You will increase your intake of micronutrients. Micronutrients are vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that are essential for good health. I will post a couple of links to blogs in the show notes that you can read and learn more about microminerals and how important they are for long-term health. You will feel fuller longer, and you won't have to eat as much, but at the same time, you'll also be able to eat more. Plant foods are full of fiber and nutrients, so they give your body the feeling of fullness, keeping you satisfied longer. However, they're also easily digested and may go through the system a lot faster than the heavy meat and dairy products. This is where, if you love to eat like I do, the great thing about eating plant-based is you pretty much can eat whatever you want, as much as you want, as long as you're eating the right foods. You will still be able to eat junk food. There are so many great vegan junk food options out there if this is something you're worried about giving up. A lot of candy, dairy-free chocolate, desserts, and comfort foods like mac and cheese and grilled cheese sandwiches can be made vegan style very easy. Try a few delicious dessert recipes and you will never eat dairy again. I know that giving up some of those foods for me was really hard when I first made the switch to plant-based, but especially because they weren't around that much years ago when I first made the switch. Now it's a little bit more accessible, which unfortunately we have to be careful that we're now not switching to a plant-based junk food diet or a vegan junk food diet, because that can happen as well, and that can be detrimental on the health. You will learn how to make and enjoy a variety of dairy-free cheeses. Once you try plant-based vegan nut cheese is a really amazing option for the dairy cheese. It's melt in your mouth and it's unbelievable, right? We've got some really great, even local people who are making wonderful fermented cheeses made with nuts that you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And in my opinion, taste better than a dairy-based cheese. You'll experience the delight of maybe even start talking about raw food, cookies, other desserts, things that are actually, they seem sinful, but they're made with such healthy, clean ingredients that they're not. They are a healthy, delightful treat that you can enjoy guilt-free. When you eat more plants, you will have a clean digestive tract because your guts won't be full of rotting, decaying flesh. I know that seems a little bit much, but it has been documented that a person can hold up to 60 pounds of waste in the digestive tract. Often this is the result of not eating enough fiber and too much animal products. The body has a really hard time removing animal products from the digestive tract without enough fiber and water, which is unfortunate because most people nowadays don't eat enough fiber or drink enough water. So the body really has to work hard. Therefore, any of that flesh, that dead flesh, sits in the body and just rots, and often can turn septic and hazardous to your health. You will, by eating more plant-based, eat less calories. Pound for pound, plant foods have less calories and fat than meat products. You will reduce incidences of food poisoning. Meat is truly gross when you think about it. It is contaminated with feces often, especially since most of the time the animals are sitting in their own waste for most of their lives. They're sitting in blood and other bodily fluids. It's no wonder disease spreads around, wet markets and butcher shops and things like that. Animal products are the top sources of food poisoning in North America. When I ate meat, I suffered from food poisoning numerous times. If you have ever had food poisoning, it is the worst. Your body desperately works to get rid of the bugs that are attacking your system and will come out of you any way it can with fury. Since going plant-based, I rarely get sick, and I have not had food poisoning. It's glorious. If you don't like being sick and you would rather not be spewing waste from both ends, consider going plant-based. I know that's a little bit visual, but it's true. You will release excess weight. Although I prefer not to talk about weight loss, since there are so many factors that go into losing weight, and often so much more than just diet and exercise. There's a lot to weight loss. And I talk to my clients a lot about some of the other tools that they need to lose weight. But it is a positive side effect. So weight loss is a positive side effect when a person starts to eat a plant-based diet. And of course, that's a whole food plant-based diet, not a junk food plant-based diet. Plant food is usually lower in calories, free of saturated fat and cholesterol, and is rich in fiber, vitamins, and minerals. In saying that, as I mentioned, there are a lot of really tasty processed vegan foods on the market. So it's really important not to eat too much of these, or weight just won't come off. One of the biggest reasons why I went plant-based was to help with my digestion and to lose excess fat that I had always had a hard time getting rid of. I've always struggled to keep fat off my body because I loved fatty foods such as burgers and cheese and fries. Although I still have to watch it, I just don't eat much of the processed junk food. It's just so much easier to keep the weight off when you're eating really great high fiber foods. As I mentioned, it's been shown that people can carry up to 60 pounds of waste in the digestive tract. And if you have excess weight to lose, when you consider eating a diet rich in plant-based foods, it will help clear that junk out of the digestive tract and remove toxins from the body. And again, as a positive side effect, you'll just lose excess weight. You will smell better. When the toxic foods are out of your system, you will notice you might not need to wear as much deodorant. Your home will smell better. I know that anytime I've ever lived in a home where meat eaters do cook the meat, I can smell the toxins, the rancidness of that just clinging to the walls. So that your even home will smell better. Overall, you will feel better. You will have more energy and your mood will be lighter. You'll look better. Studies have shown that your skin glows and, of course, depending on what food you eat, but, when our body is nourished, it shows on our biggest organ, which is our skin. I've had a lot of people say to me, your skin just glows. Well, I'll tell you, I never used to have skin like this. When I started, really my journey, I had quite bad acne. I would get cystic acne underneath the skin. It wasn't really, really bad, but it was bad enough, right? I had a blemish almost at all times, but I started flooding my body 10 years ago with whole food nutrition. I even to this day take a whole food supplement that I swear by. And one of the main things I noticed that was my skin looked significantly brighter and my acne went away. And that is actually proven by science. When our body is flooded with these vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, all these phytochemicals, our skin just looks better. You will be stronger. It has been shown that athletes who eat a plant-based diet are stronger. They recover better, which means they then get stronger from the result of their workouts. And of course, having that nice, whole, clean plant-based diet helps them recover so they can train harder. Feel lighter. You'll feel lighter physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You'll have better digestive flow, aka you will poop more often and have healthier bowel movements. Studies have shown that avoiding animal products has been linked to reduced heart disease, reduced risk of diabetes, reduced risk of cancer, high blood pressure, reduced risk of high cholesterol, osteoporosis, decreased risk of Crohn's disease and other intestinal issues, decreased risk of mercury poisoning that often comes from fish consumption, unfortunately. You will also have greater longevity. Eating a diet of plant foods has been shown to keep you looking younger and live longer. So if you look around the world in what's called blue zones, these are areas of the world that do eat diets that are rich in plant-based foods. They are the longest living people on the earth. It's fascinating when you look at some of these areas. You will, as you increase your intake of fiber, you will keep your digestive tract healthy. So the more plants you eat, just automatically, the more fiber you will have, and your digestion will be healthier. You will reduce your intake of saturated animal fat, which is a good thing for your health. Even the American Dietetic Association recommends no more than 7% of the diet be saturated fat. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the North American kind of world are eating upwards of almost 80% of the diet in saturated fat. So it's really no wonder why people are sick. So even the American Dietetic Association is recommending no more than 7% of the diet from saturated fat. And of course, saturated fats predominantly do come from animal fats. Just by eating plant-based foods, you will be reducing or completely eliminating your intake of cholesterol, because cholesterol comes from an animal that has a liver. If the plant, which obviously doesn't have liver, there's no cholesterol in plants. You will reduce your intake of steroids that are often found in meat and animal secretions. Research also shows that women who eat meat are almost 4 times as likely to develop breast cancer than those who don't eat meat. Dairy consumption is linked to ovarian, lung, and breast cancer. Red and processed meats are linked to bladder and colon cancer. And again, don't take my word for this stuff. This stuff is on in research studies. It's mind-blowing when you really start looking. Plant-based foods have more than enough protein to not only support healthy body function, but also build muscle. A documentary that recently came out, you've probably seen it. If you haven't, go watch it. Game Changers talks to a variety of high-level athletes, and some of the strongest, biggest men in the world are plant-based. It's fascinating. And if you look at, some of the biggest animals in the world, your gorillas, hippos, and things like that, they're strong, they're big, they're plant-based. Men who eat meat are 4 times more likely to contract prostate cancer than men who don't. Men who eat meat are 50% more likely to die of a heart attack than men who don't. Animal foods are high in sodium and more likely to cause cardiovascular disease. That's why, again, so many people are choosing that, because there is less excess sodium in plant-based foods. Many athletes are choosing a plant-based diet. As I mentioned already, vegan athletes thrive on a plant-based diet, contrary to popular belief. So one of my first mentors, one of the people I followed when I first, over 10 years ago, started going vegan. I'm an active person. I do consider myself an athlete, as though right now I'm not a competitive athlete in anything. But Brendan Brazier, he's a competitive triathlete, and he's the one that really got me started. He's got some great books out there about how to make the switch as an athlete, just fantastic information. And he had said that his recovery is so much better now because, next point, plant-based foods reduce inflammation and allow quicker recovery after workouts. I work out really hard. I work out harder than I ever have in my entire life, which is funny because I'm now in my 40s, but I work out harder now than ever. And I used to feel like I'd been hit by a truck after workouts. I've got friends and colleagues who always say how sore they are after a workout. And although I might feel a little bit of soreness, I am never to the point of I can't walk or I'm so sore to the touch. I'm never like that anymore. I just recover so quickly because my body every day is flooded with plant foods. Plant foods offer more than enough protein, as I talked about as well, to build muscle tissue and, of course, all the other nutrients that are in plant foods. So athletes also experience better cardiovascular endurance. right? I'll just use myself as an example that, and any of my plant-based colleagues, the cardiovascular endurance has never been better. I have never been able to run as hard as I have been before and sustain it as long as possible. So really, really cool to be able to see these amazing results. And why not, right? If you're an athlete, why wouldn't you want to do everything you could to get better? Why not be open-minded? I know that's one thing I often do in my coaching style, is to really step away from being focused on kind of one way. Now, even though I'm a plant-based coach, if I've got a client who does well by eating a little bit of meat, great, if that works for them. It's just really important that we look at all angles and all sides, because one thing might actually work really well for you if you open up and look at it. So now that you know the many ethical, health, and environmental reasons for making the switch to a compassionate, plant-based vegan lifestyle, let's review some of the other great reasons why now is the perfect time in history to live this lifestyle. So some other great reasons to make the switch include the fact that many delicious meatless options are now available. So if you like the taste of meat, but it's probably not the best choice, choose one of the many meatless options that are now available on the market. So companies such as Beyond Meat, Gardein, Eve's, Daya, and Tofurky have mastered the art of meatless options such as burgers, sausages, chicken-style strips, and so much more. Although these options should be kept as treats, as any other processed food should be, they're a great option if you're craving a meat-style meal. I've had a lot of people say, you choose to go vegan. Why are you eating foods that taste like meat? And I said, well, I always say, it's not the taste of meat that I'm trying to get away from. It's the killing and suffering of an animal to get their meat that I'm trying to stay away from. Don't get me wrong, meat can taste good. I mean, of course, it's all the spices and everything that goes on it. But, once you make that switch and you're used to, and you can try like a Tofurky loaf or a Gardein plant ground, they're unbelievable. And anytime I've made a lasagna for someone, or I've given somebody, I've served they're not turkey loaves, but like turkey loaves, most people don't notice the difference. They're a fantastic option. So it's great to know that if you are, you don't have to be without your meat flavor, is what I'm saying. That you can be without the steroids, the saturated fat, and still enjoy a meat style meal. So being vegan also helps to feed the world. Did you know that according to PETA, which is an organization, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, it takes over 13 pounds of grain to produce just 1 pound of animal flesh? Think of all the starving people in the world, all that grain could feed. Think what you want about grain, but if you do the research and follow some of the mentors that I do about gut health and absolute health, whole grains need to be in our diet. Processed grains, definitely not. But whole grains, absolutely, for the fiber, the vitamins, the minerals, have to be in our diet based on the science that I've seen. So think of all that grain that could be feeding the world. I still can't wrap my head around the statistic. How do leaders of the world know these statistics about how many people that kind of food can feed? And yet it's still allowed to happen while there are people all over the world who don't have enough to eat. And it's not just people in third world countries that are starving. There's people in North America, children in North America, who don't have enough to eat right now. So if you're at all concerned about the hunger crisis we have in our world, consider going plant-based, because the less meat people are eating and the less demand for it, the more affordable foods like grains are to everyone. Another great reason is all the cool people are doing it. There are many celebrities who have now gone plant-based and are inspiring millions of people to do the same. And of course, I'm not really a bandwagon jumper. I've always been, I've never been one to succumb to peer pressure. I have a stubborn mind, often, to my detriment. If somebody's doing this, I'll often do the opposite, even though I should maybe do what they're doing. But, that's kind of a fun thing. It's great to see mentors, and it's great to see more people making the switch now, because again, over 10 years ago, It was basically old hippies that were eating plant-based, and I didn't really have anybody to really look up to. So it's pretty cool to see that people that are more mainstream, there's lots of people for young people to look up to and really just embrace the lifestyle in a healthy way. Plant-based and veganism is the future. Although many people will fight this fact, it is true. And that in order to feed the amount of people that will be on this planet in the next 20 years, we have to rethink the way we feed people. As we can see what's happening in the state of the world today, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, there are many things in our world that we need to rethink. And the way we feed people, the way we treat each other, the way we treat animals and other living things, the way we treat our planet, these all have to shift. And they have to shift to a positive way. We've got to release that ego. We've got to embrace each other, ourselves as a soul, and really rethink the way we are doing things. We are not going to survive if we don't. Since I started cutting out meat and animal products about 20 years ago was when I started my journey. So I've been about a vegan for just over 10 years and vegetarian for about 10 years over that, or before that. There's been a huge shift in how the world views eating and using animals. There's even big companies that are no longer using fur. They're no longer using leather, that are no longer using animal testing, because we're waking up to the fact that this is as a horrific practice and it's unnecessary. Back then, as I mentioned, it was hard to find vegan substitutes such as mayonnaise, milk, butter, where now these items are commonplace. And I talk about some of these substitutions in my book, A Beginner's Guide to Going Meatless. You can find that on my website, R.J.O. But these substitutions are easier than ever. Right? So, instead of using mayo, you can use an avocado or a vegan mayo. Instead of dairy milk, you can use all the other plant-based milks that are out there. My favorite is coconut. I say my second favorite would be soy. I'm a big soy milk fan, especially my coffees. It tends to kind of foam up really well. Instead of using butter, there's coconut oil. There's also vegan butter out there. I'm not a fan quite so much, but if you prefer the taste of kind of margarine, I prefer coconut oil. It's a little cleaner. Right? So now these items are commonplace. You can find them in your average grocery store. You even had to go to a specialty store to get those before, and you don't anymore, which is great. You can just go down to your local grocery store and find them all there. It's pretty cool. Most people back when I first made the switch didn't even know what the word vegan meant. People looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. I honestly felt like an alien for a really long time. And I had a business that was teaching people, and I ended up shutting it down even back in the day because I was so, I felt so judged. And now I'm so strong in what I believe in, and see how, celebrities, like I said, are going vegan, and so much it's talked about in the media. More and more people are doing it now. Even young people, children are even making the choice to go vegan without the influence of their parents, so it's more commonplace now. So I feel comfortable. I think children are feeling more called to just do it. Because I really believe that, it's on a soul level. It just seems wrong. How do you go to a petting zoo one day and love the little goats and the piggies, and at the same time go to the cafeteria and eat one? It doesn't compute for me. But maybe it's, it's good to have some conversation around this. And again, it's no judgment at all. It's just, I don't compute it. I grew up that way, but there's a part of me that always thought it was weird, except I was just told that's what we did. And now as an adult, I can release what I was told as a child and make my own decisions. That's the cool part about being an adult. And it's far less expensive to eat plants. Now, at first, some people think it is more expensive, and I'm big into superfoods and super herbs, so they can be expensive. But when you purchase, vegetable-based foods that are not processed, you will save money. It is very expensive to buy meat. Much of the meat is funded by the government to keep costs down, because it costs a lot to feed and slaughter an animal for consumption. So if there was no longer government subsidies for meat, it would be astronomical in price. But in comparison, beans, rice, tofu, pasta cost little compared to a really nice quality, let's say, cut of meat. PETA mentions that according to a 2007 MSN Money Central article, the cheapest cuts of beef, such as ground round, average about $3 per pound. Boneless chicken breasts cost about 3.4 per pound, and canned tuna costs around $2 a pound. Now, that was over 10 years ago, so those prices are going to be higher now. But in comparison, dried beans and lentils cost less than $1 a pound, and rice is cheaper than $1 a pound, right? Tofu usually costs less than $2 a pound. So even vegans who buy costlier products like soy sausage and non-dairy ice cream can still spend less than people who load up on beef, chicken, and fish. So that's according to PETA and that study. By making the choice to live a more compassionate, plant-based vegan lifestyle, you will be a role model for many other people who may want to live this way but are scared to or have no idea how to. And of course, this might be you at this point. And I really am so grateful to be able to embrace this lifestyle because it's who I am. It's not just what I do, it's who I am. And now I have been able to be a role model for other people who do want to make the switch. If you don't want to make the switch, that's okay, right? But for those who do, if you're out there and you want to make the switch and you have no idea how to, please connect with me. Simply, even my book, my latest book, A Beginner's Guide to Going Meatless. My editor, bless her heart, she's worked very hard to help me get this book out, and she's not vegan. But she's an athlete. She likes to take care of herself. She even said, this was a very non-judgmental book that made me feel like, hey, I could really use a few more plants in my life and I can see the benefits of it, but without feeling like, she had to make a switch. It's not about being perfect. It's about just, taking that little step that might get you closer to where you want to be. So by embracing this lifestyle, you're making a stand against an outdated belief system. Just because we're told something for many, many years doesn't mean that we have to keep doing it. So as soon as we see new research that kind of negates those old beliefs, we need to really think about being open-minded to look at them. With this lifestyle, you're no longer supporting the greedy consumerism and gluttony that's happening all over the world with meat consumption. It's too much. Like I can get on board with a little bit of meat and animal consumption, I suppose, if we're not looking from an animal ethics perspective. When it comes to health, they even say a little bit, 5% of animal products in the diet can be a very healthy diet. But when it's 80% and upwards, it's getting a little bit too much. With this lifestyle, you can be passionate about something that represents positive energy and compassion for not only the animals, but yourself and the world. What a great cause. You're taking a courageous step to get out of your comfort zone and try something you may thought you never would. I'll tell you, if you would have asked me, when I was a child, I had no clue what this lifestyle was. And for anybody who knew me, my late teens, early 20s, there's no way I would have. I probably would have denied it. But again, it's being open to going, hey, you know what? What I'm doing right now isn't working for me. So I want some suggestions on what is going to work for me. And for me, this just happened to be what it was, right? Anytime we take a stand for what we believe in and step out of our comfort zone, we grow as a person. And we also encourage others to do the same. Like I don't even know how many people I've inspired to feel better and take control of their health. And I don't need to know, but I do know there have been quite a few just because, not because I'm pushing it on anybody, because I'm just taking a stand and saying, this is who I am. I've had a lot of people see me over the years and say, are you still doing that vegan thing? And I'm like, the vegan thing. Hey, I'm like, look, this is who I am. It's not just what I do. It is who I am. All right. As much as my name is who I am, it is who I am. When you do this, you're saying you're not afraid of being different. As a vegan, you will be a minority, at least until the rest of the world catches up. People who choose to be different and step outside of the box are change makers and leaders, which is a fun and gratifying experience. Just like we're seeing now in the world, people are standing up for their rights. People are saying, I do not vote for this. I am not going to stand for this. So whatever your values are, as I spoke about in previous episode, you need to stand up for that. And your actions will show you standing up for it. With this lifestyle, you show the world you are not afraid of learning and speaking the truth. Many people fear going plant-based or vegan because deep down they know it is the best way. People know an animal has to be killed in order to be eaten, and many know how animals are tortured and exploited while they are alive, yet they choose not to see or speak the truth out of fear and old belief systems. So when you stand up and say, okay, I'm going to release this belief system that I've lived for my entire life because I see the truth. Don't get me wrong. When I first made the switch, I lost friends. People left my life because I don't know if I was no longer cool or couldn't eat at the places. I don't know. But, that's going to happen, and it can happen. But sometimes it's for the best, right? You realize who your true friends are, and you make room for new belief systems and new thoughts and new behavior patterns and new actions and new people in your life. Pretty cool. Being plant-based is a long-term sustainable food source option, right? You can grow your own food, which is very cool, and it is sustainable for the planet in the long term. So really, there's absolutely no reason not to live a compassionate, plant-based, vegan lifestyle. You have an important choice to make. Now is the time to align what you believe in with your actions. I hope that by listening to the many reasons to live a more compassionate, plant-based, vegan lifestyle, you are inspired, even in a little way, to at least take the first step in doing so. That might be cutting out one meal a week. It might be just trying a new fruit or vegetable that you never have before. It doesn't have to be hard. However, you might also be thinking, I have no clue what to do right now. I understand what you're saying, but I have no clue what to do. Don't fret. That's why I'm here. I've been vegan myself for over 10 years, vegetarian for before that, and I've helped many people choose this compassionate, more healthier lifestyle. So what I'd like you to do right now is I'd like you, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. As you hear inspiring stories from others and learn from me in this podcast, you will be helped on your journey to better health and wellness. Visit my blog at R.J.O. to stay updated on the latest research, information, and recipes. If you want more information and support in making the switch to eating more of a plant-powered diet, or even just learning more about it, you can find my books, The Beginner's Guide to Going Meatless and The Magic of Living Nutrition, on my website or on Amazon. Or feel free to sign up for a coaching call with me for more individualized support on my website as well. I encourage you to please like my Facebook and Instagram pages, R.J.O. Wellness. So on Facebook, it's R.J.O. Wellness Consulting, and on Instagram, it is at R.J.O. Wellness. And on there, you can ask questions and stay updated on new courses, blogs, podcasts, and upcoming events. You can now support the podcast at rjowellness.com/podcast to help me continue to bring you the latest health and wellness tips, as well as bring on some inspiring and knowledgeable guests, which I have coming up for you. And I'm so very excited to share those with you over the next few weeks. So as always, I hope you've gained value from this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, my friends, keep rocking your wellness. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Rockin Wellness Podcast. Make sure to visit my website at www.rjowellness.com, where you can subscribe to the show and check out all the show notes. While you're at it, if you found value in this podcast, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about it, that would help out too. You may choose to join the R.J.O. Wellness community to take advantage of the freebies, courses, and coaching that will take your voyage to the next level, or support this podcast with your monthly membership. Until next time, my friends, keep rocking your wellness.